Hey guys, welcome to Gather. Looking forward to tonight, and we have Cole's going to be leading us with some worship. We have a talk on genuine care and community, followed by an interview with Colby and Vaughn and their experience with Big Brothers and Sisters. And they have since graduated from the program, but they're just chatting about what genuine care has looked like as they've entered into that mentorship relationship. And so thank you for joining us tonight, and join us for online discussion later.
Presence, all noise dies down. Lord, speak to me now. You have all my attention. I will linger and listen. I can't miss a thing. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. All I want is to live within your love, being done by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I am desperate for a touch of heaven. Whoa, 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 whoa. You're the fire in the morning, you're the cool in the evening, the breath in my soul, all the life in my bones. There is no hesitation in your love and affection. It's the sweetest of all. Lord, I know my heart wants more of you. My heart wants something new, so I surrender all. And all I want is to live within your love, be undone by who you are. My desire is to know you deeper. Lord, I will open up again, throw my fears into the wind. I'm desperate for a touch of heaven. Whoa, I open up my heart to you now. So do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now. I open up my heart to you. I open up my heart to you now, to do what only you can. Jesus, have your way in me now.
Hey guys, how are you doing? It's Pastor Danielle here, and I'm looking forward to wrapping up this series on building blocks of community, and glad that you can join us online. So the last thing we're talking about is genuine care and community. And I remember a time, this was when I was 15, I'd recently become a Christian, and I got invited to go on a missions trip. And this had been the first missions trip I've ever been on, and it was to another country. It was Mexico, and we were working with an orphanage. And one of the evenings, it was early on in the trip, we were working at this camp, and this camp supported families. They had kids, and they ran programs, they had shelter, they had food. And we were working with some of the programming for the kids' stuff during the evening. And I remember during the end of the day, we were packing up all of our gear, and we started driving away in our nice big white van, heading back to our safe place. And the kids were running behind us, and my heart just felt broken. I was very bothered by this situation. I didn't understand why we got to go home and they had to stay behind. And it broke my heart that the kids had to live in these conditions, and I got to leave. And I kind of questioned, well, what good did I even do in this situation? It was only the first day, and I got prayer from the leaders, and they're praying for me. But still, that night, I could not sleep. And I remember everybody else fell asleep, and I got up, and I went outside on the balcony, and I just sat there, and I started asking God all of these existential questions about pain and suffering. And I was crying the whole time. And then it was, all of a sudden, I just felt God's spirit, and he just quieted me. And I'll never forget this moment. And I love the way God speaks through general revelation. And what this means is he speaks through creation. And it often highlights the things that we find in the special revelation of God's word and what we read in the Bible. And specifically, I think of Psalm 19:1. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of his hands." And I remember in that moment, I was upset and crying, and I looked up in the sky, and I was looking at the moon, and it was like the cloud came and it wrapped around the moon, and it formed the shape of a hand. Like, it just looked like the shape of a hand holding the moon. And I just felt like God, the Holy Spirit, he whispered to me, and he said, I have the whole world in my hand. I have the whole world in my hands. And I was reflecting on Psalm 95, 4-5. It says, "In his hand are the depths of the earth. The mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, for he made it, and his hands formed the dry land." And so in this moment, it kind of felt like a Job moment. And Job had a much more painful experience. And it was like God's reply to Job, in Job 38, and he questions him with, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth?" And it just brings it back to this focus of like God's hand. He's in control of it. So how about you? Have you ever looked around at the world and the circumstances of your own life and felt limited in your ability to fix it, or genuine care for the needs to be met? Even in this last season with COVID-19, and there's different people struggling with different things, I've often felt like my hands are just too small. And so maybe you felt that way. And the reality is, alone, we cannot solve all of the world's problems. We're actually not meant to solve all of the world's problems. And I'm actually thankful that, as a church, the body of Christ, that there's many hands and feet and people that are called to do different things and to care about different things and care for people. So what is genuine care? And I want to just highlight a few things about genuine care to help you focus in on some things so that you don't feel so overwhelmed and that by all of the needs that you don't do anything. But God wants to invite you to do some things and do some things really well. So genuine care is done in relationship to Jesus, first of all. We must remember that people are under God's care and that this world is first in his hands. And I got this picture here, right? That's kind of the visual I've had of when God spoke to me there in Mexico. And in helping others, we partner with a true Savior, a healer, a redeemer, and he is a friend. So he's the one who comes alongside people in ways that we can't. Comes alongside of us as we help others. Whatever burden we have for others, Jesus invites us to bear it with him. He invites us to rest so that we don't grow weary in doing good or that we run on our own strength. As well, we see from his perspective the people around us. Matthew 11:28-30 is a really good verse to meditate on and to take time in prayer. It says, "Come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and I will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." As people who desire to genuinely care for others, we must trust that them to God's hands. Release them. Jesus, I release the health and the healing of these people to your hands. Or are you frantically trying to save everyone, and or are you engaging in active rest as you care for others? And remember, Jesus cares about you too. He doesn't leave you abandoned. You're not some machine, but he wants to go with you. He wants to partner with you. We got to remember too that genuine care is discerning. It's focused. Those who care engage in wise care, pray, and ask God about what to devote their energy to. We live in a world we're bombarded by lots of things to care for. With increased social media, we can easily open up our iPhones or our computer and we see the need, these lots of needs. And we need to allow that to not overwhelm us so that we don't care about anything or retreat, but rather engage in prayer. Ask God, who or what will you care for? And maybe it'll be for a certain season or a time in your life. One thing that gets me is seeing people alone or not fitting in. Not surprising, I get to be pastor of single adults, and guess what? I am limited in my ability to help and save every single person that I might notice is alone or doesn't feel like they fit in. But it doesn't stop me from trying. But I need to ask God each day and pray unceasingly. It says in Thessalonians 5:17, says, don't stop praying. Who might I reach out to? I can ask God at this time, who needs my priority? Or who might I equip or ask to help meet a need? This is a discipline. I can sometimes head into the week and I am going to conquer all loneliness that's out there. And when I reach the end of the week, I notice that I crash. I literally can get upset that I can't be everyone's best friend. Then that brought me back to point 1, where I need my rest to be in Jesus Christ. I need to trust that he is moving on behalf. He's moving outside of what I can do. He's omnipresent. He is everywhere. He's the only one that can be with others always. He is the best friend that I can point people to. And others, I can rely that others are also there to care for others. I can't do it all, and you can't do it all. As people who desire to genuinely care for others, we must be wise in prayer about who. Become focused and intentional about this. Set some time and prioritize. Who are you caring for? Last few things here is genuine care is done with compassion. I just encourage you, it's a warning sign if you are losing your compassion, and often we're getting burned out if we just don't care anymore. Don't lose your compassion. Jesus was a busy man. He was so busy. And I love this passage in Matthew 9, and you can look at it later, Matthew 9:35-38. Just read the first part right now. But Jesus went through the towns and villages, teaching in the synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Jesus kept his compassion, and he wants us to keep his compassion, but we need to seek him. Going back to point 1, that genuine care is done in relationship to Jesus, and it's done with discernment and focus, but we want to keep his compassion for people so that when we're helping others, we are acting out of love, not just obligation. Genuine care is done in community best. And so I just want to end off on this note of shared caring for other people. So even Jesus recognized that the need was great. And so just even look at this. Right after Jesus mentioned that how he had compassion on the people, he said when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. And then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest. So we need all hands on board. Pray for friends to engage things with you. You do not have to bear it alone. The need is great, but God can provide the need, and we can pray for God to invite others into it. And not everybody might be interested in what you're doing, but then encourage them to explore other opportunities. And maybe you'll find other things that you can help, but it's important that you ask God, what is it that He wants you to engage in at this time? Many hands make light work, and that's how God's kingdom works best. That's how God's church works best, is that we're a body and all working together to accomplish His purposes. The yoke and burden we feel for others is a good thing. I'm not saying we just try and get rid of the uncomfortableness of that. It's a good tension to live in. It's what motivates us to action as workers in His field. Everyone is called to genuinely care for others. And so I leave you with this. And something that you can ask is asking Jesus for His rest and His help, going back to that Matthew 11 passage. Seek God for your priorities moving forward. And I just encourage you to inspire others to genuinely care for others, because we need everyone around us. So thank you guys for joining us in this series. Coming up next, we have an interview with Colby and Vaughn, and they're just going to be talking about their big brother relationship, that they got connected through Big Brothers and Sisters and have since graduated from the program, but are an awesome example about what genuine care can look like. And so, see you guys later. This will be fun. We'll have fun.
Yeah.
Well, like we just were chatting about genuine care and community, and one of the points actually I specifically mentioned was focused care. And I thought about Vaughn and Colby, and Vaughn and Colby have since graduated from the program, but they met originally through the Big Brothers and Sisters organization. And I thought I would interview them because they've kept in contact. I think Colby, Colby, are you 20 now?
I'm 19.
Oh, he's 19. Okay, almost 20. Almost 20. But yeah, they've spent a total of how many years together?
Five and a bit, because it was May 20th, 2015 was when we were matched. When we first met, the first day we met.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's almost 6 years. So yeah, next May will be
6
6.
years.
Let's say 5.5 years, I guess.
Vaughn was mentioning Colby was just a little guy.
Yeah.
About this big. Just grew up.
He's really tiny. And it's just
Put him in his pocket. Oh, that's good. Well, just a question I had for you guys was, so how did you find out about Big Brothers and Sisters, and what led you to sign up for it?
I think for me it was I was at a low point in my life, and I started to reflect on just some of my actions and stuff, and over the years, and I realized that I was very, how I put it is like I lived a really selfish life. I always felt like I didn't have anything to give, and that once I get, then I'll be able to give, then I'll be able to share, and that sort of stuff. And I think from that, I kind of realized that at that time it was like, the Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. And I thought, okay, I do have something to offer, but what is it? I thought I had nothing to offer, but then I realized I could offer my time. And then I thought, oh, maybe I should volunteer. And then I did a search for volunteer opportunities, and the Big Brothers, Big Sisters came up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go through that process and make the change to see what I can give here and how can I be of service in any way I could.
And what led you to sign up, Colby?
I think one of my mom's friends told her about it, and then my mom did more research into it, and then I think we did like a meeting there,
Mhm.
and then we did another meeting to figure out my interests and stuff, to then meet my big brother. Yeah.
And you looked across the room and you were like, that guy.
Actually,
you came to my house.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go.
It took about 3 months before they found them, because it was a long process for the initial interviews and stuff. And it took almost 3 or 4 months before they
Wow.
called. They said like, yeah, I have a match for you.
I think it almost took me a full year.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool though. I mean, it goes to show sometimes even like working at the church, right? Like, and you're kind of connecting people in different ways, and because you want people to like feel connected and cared for. Sometimes it's like not initially you find a good match, right? Whether it's like a small group or a friend, or like in this case, right, a big brother. It's like or a little brother, and
Yeah.
yet eventually it's like keep plugging away and something can happen.
They have a really good matching system because I don't know, we've had so much in common that it's like, how did we always wonder, like, how did they match us? Because it was so good.
Yeah. So what's something interesting that you guys have learned about each other over the last 5 years?
You go ahead.
Okay. I think the one interesting thing is Vaughn's very to his word. Like when he says something, he truly does mean it. Like someone says they always want the honest answer. They usually sometimes don't mean that because they're speaking from their like idealist self. But Vaughn is very like he wants to know what he's doing wrong, how he can improve, and what he can learn from it.
Hmm.
It's the one thing. Say.
That's good.
It's
Thank
cool.
you. I think with Colby, what's very interesting to me is he's very different. I think he's probably the only 19-year-old on planet Earth that doesn't have a Facebook account.
Yeah.
Always he doesn't drink or do anything that would most teenagers would probably get into, and he's usually the voice of reason and wisdom and guidance and support for the rest of his friends. And very, caring, compassionate, although he has his particular way of showing that. But I think that that really stands out, that he's just very, very different in that way. Really wants to do good, and presents himself in a very good way.
Hmm. That's awesome. I'm glad that you guys were encouraging. Speaking from experience of being in small group with you guys, I know you guys like to roast each other a bit, but that's a good sign of a trusting place, right?
Yeah.
So what has been one good thing and one challenging thing about this brotherly relationship?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, the which one do you want me to start with?
Good thing.
Good thing. Okay.
Actually, no. Let's start with the challenging thing.
Challenging thing. I think the challenge that I had, I probably still to some degree still have, is he I guess his communication in a way, where he's very introverted. I mean, we're both introverts, but if I didn't have a good intuition, I very often wouldn't know how he's feeling or what he's going through. And I think in the first few years, I actually didn't know. Um, I didn't know how much he enjoyed the match. Like every year, you had an opportunity. While we were in the program, you had an opportunity to decide if you wanted to continue or not. You'd have a quarterly, and then you'd have a yearly review. And I was always surprised every time that he continued the match, and that probably the number one complaint, or if we couldn't really call it a complaint, but the number one thing was, we need to hang out more. That was his thing, that he would just like to hang out more, and I was always surprised by that. And it wasn't until I think it was about, I always wondered whether I was having any sort of good impact on him. And I think it was about 3.5 years into the match or so, that or time being together, that all of a sudden he just opened up and shared how much of an impact that the whole thing had. And I was just very surprised. I was like, oh wow, okay. I didn't know that this is how he valued it. So, but I've kind of learned to just understand the way that he communicates is yeah, and get used to that. So
Yeah, it's funny how sometimes, silence or unsaid things, right, it's not a bad thing. I've had
yeah,
that
yeah.
before. There was one girl I actually had mentored for a while. Actually, she ended up marrying my brother, and now we're sister-in-laws. But
That's awesome.
but she was very, very quiet, and I never knew. But I was like, but I just felt like God was like, hey, just spend time and care, and she's great. And the older she got, you just kind of come out of your shell, and learn more about yourself. And so, what about one good thing about this for you, Colby?
I'd say how very similar we are. It's like sometimes scary, like because I think like a couple of years in, I had something that I liked, but I just never mentioned. But then Vaughn liked it also. It's like I think that was just funny to me about like how similar we were, even though we just didn't talk about some of the stuff that we were both into.
And I guess going back, oh, sorry, were you gonna say something there?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, was there a challenging part for you, Colby?
Uh, I'm very laid back and Vaughn's very intense. So like when Vaughn's like go go go, I'm like just go with the flow. Like yeah, I think. But even that's good because it like balances out. I'd
Yeah.
say yeah.
And that was the good thing for me was just the just the similarities and the differences because we say for example we're interested in cars, we both like cars. He is he more likes the older stuff, or he would like the modern stuff if it's modified in a way that I wouldn't agree with. But still, it's just the similarities and the differences are really good.
Hmm. What has God taught you about genuine care?
I think the biggest thing I learned was patience and compassion. Funny enough, towards myself, I had an experience where I had been working on something and I made a mistake that I'd made so many times, and I was really hard on myself. And in the midst of that, I remember almost it was like I heard a voice, like I believe it was God, just kind of guiding me through that. But it was like, what if Colby was doing the same thing and he, made the same mistakes?
Hmm.
How would you deal with it? And I had the image of how I would, it didn't matter how many times he's tried and made mistakes or whatever, but I would just support him, whether it took him 10, 20 years, it didn't matter. I would always support and encourage him. And I saw that image of us just switching places. And I saw I was very caring, very supportive, very patient and encouraging. And then after all of that, um, I remember saying, yeah, I would never speak to him the way that I was, thinking about myself at the time. And
Mhm.
then that calm voice just said, well, why can't you be that way with yourself? And I remember just being like, oh, wow. And through that, I learned to have just patience with myself, which allowed me to just share that with others, just be patient and understanding and supportive, um, like love others the way that God cares for me as well. So
Mhm.
that's probably one of the biggest things I got out of it.
Mhm. That's cool. And we have a few more minutes left here. But just quickly, Colby, what do you like most about having a big brother? Well, because
Uh,
now it's like, yeah, you guys are kind of you've surpassed the program. You're just brothers. It's like
Yeah.
life deal.
I think someone that understands me, I understand them. And to have the age gap, I think is a good thing because he may know stuff to help guide me, and maybe in some ways I can help guide him with how the world's going right now.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think it's good because I feel like a lot of people don't understand each other's generations because I don't think they take the time to talk. I think I think our age gap is a good thing because we understand I think the world better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like that. And then just last question is, what would you guys say to someone who's on the fence about investing in someone or caring for someone more intentionally?
Time.
Bit of that.
I think time.
What do you mean?
Because like you can't just give them half. I think you have to really be there for them.
Mhm.
Otherwise you're just more of a I don't know, a friend
Mhm.
instead of like family. So I think
Mhm.
time is a big consideration.
I
I think
think
that's really wise. Yeah.
yeah, I think if someone who's on the fence of like, you really have to to just um, trust your intentions and go forward with it. And I would say have a willingness to learn and to grow and improve in the relationship. Accept that if you're gonna dance with somebody at first, you may step on their toes now and again, but it's how you kind of fix that. Because very early on, and still to this day, a common question I would ask him is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are we doing? And no matter what answer he would give, I would find out, why it's that, and what would make it a 10. And from there, we would improve. I probably ask, we probably go through that probably at least once a month. But it always, I would say, just be willing to seek to understand that the other person, and commit and go and grow from there.
That's great. Yeah, and I like it because that really ties in with even what I said, or what I'm saying, or what I said earlier was just focused care. And I think for our part to, you know, take time to pray and ask about, like, well, who and what am I investing in? Obviously, there's so many different invitations, not distractions, but invitations to care about a lot of people and things. And so I think taking time just to, like, well, who or what, right? And so obviously, you guys made the choice to say, like, hey, we're gonna invest in this brothership here, and defined it as family, and you guys are pursuing that goal, which I think is very good. And last word to our audience here, I just encourage you to not think that you need to be perfect to invest into other people's lives. It's actually a good thing for people to see you sometimes make mistakes, or maybe you're going to be apologizing for your reaction, or uh, your way that you're learning. And so just, don't worry about being perfect in this, and just encourage you to take time, pray about it, invest in others. It's worth it to give people genuine care. And it's something our world is hungry for, where, there's a lot of loneliness out there. Um, and so let's be intentional, and look at people as Christ looks at us. And so thank you guys for your interview. And yeah,